Hello. It has been a time. Salutations, kindred. Welcome back to my channel. I am, of course, 3 raccoons in a trench coat. So announcements. You may notice that one, this is super late, and 2, there was no video last time. A lot has been going on, and I'm not sure what the heck is going on with scheduling at this point, because both technology and random happenstance have been conspiring to just be difficult. I will get into the Vegas trip and all the awesome stuff that happened that we saw there, but first, I should probably cover some of the mayhem that went down. The first happened on the actual Jolmas Day itself, which was a lot harder than I anticipated this year. It's just one of those things, but my dad apparently had a seizure, and he seems to be fine now, seems to be back to his version of normal now, but it was sort of a reminder that we're coming up on that time. And I don't think anything really ever prepares you for that. So I don't know. We could still have a few months. We could still have a few years. It's hard to tell, but it's sort of the first sign of things going downhill. And yes, it's kind of been happening every time I go home and noticing that he's a little further gone than the last time I saw him. But yeah. One of the deterrents you can hear right now is they've been doing constant construction on our apartment complex to fix some issues with the upstairs walkways, which is great, but it's made recording any kind of sound horrific. I really hope that that's not what caused the weird distortion. I recorded this once already. My microphone sounded like aliens were trying to intervene. It was very odd. Other announcements. You've probably already heard this, especially if you're on my Patreon, but on the 1st of February, about 20% of my company was laid off due to reorganization, and my position was impacted by that. So now I'm looking for work again, which, while seems like it could be, hey, I've got more time for creative stuff, also in some regards is more exhausting than having an actual job, the looking. So I'm taking a bunch of small jobs where I can find them, and also, hey, if you need story consulting, I do that on my Patreon. And on Friday of that week, my desktop computer finally fully ate it. Just full on ate it. Cannot get it to turn back on. Thankfully, the 2 drives that have everything I need on it are safe. I just need a way to get stuff off of there so that I can give them to my audio engineer. I went to Micro Center. I got new parts to build a new computer. It's pretty darn awesome. I'm very excited about it. Unfortunately, the people who I need to build it for me are super backed up and very understaffed. So it could be 4 weeks from when I turned it in. So I'm making do with my laptop. I'm just going to get all the bad stuff out of the way. It's not their fault. I don't hold a grudge from that. It's just, okay, I will work through this. And then our gas, it's back on, finally. But after 3 days, we didn't have any gas because someone smelled a gas leak behind the apartment. So they understandably turned it off. And then the gas company was like, well, we can't come and check it out till Monday. So we were freezing, had no hot water, and couldn't use our stove or our oven or the laundry. It was a miserable 3 days. Especially because over those 3 days, we were doing some set construction and working on a horror shoot, which there's lots of fake blood, there's dust. We ended up taking one shower at the gym, which was not the most clean place, unfortunately. And then I took the most pathetic bath that was like a puddle, just because I needed to feel clean. And I took the kettle and the coffee maker, and then I microwaved water. Like, I had all 3 going so that I could get some semblance of hot water in this bathtub. It was ridiculous, and I acknowledge that. And you know what? It got the job done, and thankfully we now have hot water and heat back, and I'm very excited, especially because it happened during a cold snap for California. It's like, No, why? Why couldn't you be like this during, like, I don't know, when it was in like the 80s or something? Anyway, all is good. We're getting back on track. That announcement, of course, is going to kick off the highlights from the past weeks of what's been freaking great. And the first is on the first. Well, yes, I did also get laid off that day. That night was in bulk. A small group of friends of Angelique and I went up to a cabin that a friend of ours owns, and we got to celebrate in bulk. And we had a fire and got to, set our intentions for the year. We got to see snow and walk around in the mountains. It was beautiful. And it was also, and I sadly don't have footage of this because I don't have any sophisticated image capture equipment that could have caught this on film. But that was also the night where the comet was visible to the naked eye. It was visible on Imbolc. It was amazing. And at like 1 a.m., Angelique and I were like shivering, like cuddled up, watching this teal comet just streak across the sky. It was magical and beautiful and amazing. And I hope you also got to see it because it was just, especially seeing the night sky with no light pollution is one of my favorite things. Now, of course, a big highlight was also going to a Mega Mart and Vegas for the first time and getting to see all that. And we will talk about that because that's today's topic. But I also need to tell you about I needed it so badly. It was the ego boost I really needed. I got my manuscript back from my amazing agent, and she is so excited about Hemlock. And that was everything I needed to hear. But she's really excited to start pitching it to editors. Obviously, we got to go through this next round of edits, but I'm really excited. So that's going to be my big project for February and such. Also, I'm going to be going to a writer's retreat. I should put this in announcements, I'm realizing, but that's okay. I'm going to be going to a writer's retreat the first weekend of March. So there's a chance we might not necessarily have a video that week. We'll see, especially if I'm still having technology struggles. Thank you so much for bearing with me. But I'm really excited because I've never been on a writer's retreat, and I got my stuff for it before I got laid off. So I'm actually really glad that I did that because I probably would not have allowed myself that luxury if it came up, after the fact. So I'm very glad I did that. But yeah, I'm really excited about that, to go and meet other writers who are, it's specifically through my literary agent. So it's her and a bunch of other authors she represents. So I get to meet them and then get to know her a lot better in person. And I'm so excited. It's going to be amazing. And speaking of amazing, let's get on with the topic of the day. Boop, boop. Or the week. The topic of this video. Before we jump into the exact reason that we went to Vegas, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Vegas itself. Mostly because it was my first time going. I had never been before. And what a strange and genuinely lovely place I found it to be. Like, it was sort of, I think Angelique describes it as adult Epcot. And agreed. I did have to wonder, if we didn't live in Los Angeles and weren't so used to like almost everything being used as a billboard, would it have seemed more strange or more, culture shock-ish to have all of that as it was? But it was interesting. It was sort of just like, oh, okay. But the one thing I will say that I was genuinely jazzed about with visiting Vegas was the theming. You know me, I love a good theme. I love theme design, and it's rampant there. Sometimes in places it doesn't even make sense, and I was so here for it. Our first night, we got there a little bit later than we intended. We hit really bad traffic like right before the Nevada border, and I was very confused like what was going on, because it was not a place that you would expect a lot of traffic, but we were like barely moving. And then finally when we got past Y, there was this very large semi off to the side that looked like they had maybe put a wheel back on it or something. So it didn't look like anyone had been hurt. But it seemed to be that like way down the road that had happened. And I'm not sure if anyone had been harmed. I really hope not. But it was oddly a moment of gratitude, because we were initially supposed to get out on the road an hour prior. I'm choosing to believe that, yes, we got caught in that horrible traffic. But if we had been earlier, we might have been next to that semi when it lost that wheel. And I don't know. I'd like to just be grateful that we got there safely. And we also had a great night. We got all gussied up and we went to just kind of walk around a lot of the casinos. We were really rocking our like James Bond femme fatale vibe that first night. The interesting thing about casinos, at least Vegas Strip casinos, is that ultimately your casino floor is going to be kind of the same. And it reminded me of like apartment complexes or those like suburb developments where ultimately they're pulling from like one of 3 floor plans for each living space. Where the creativity really comes in is the people occupying those spaces decide to do with them. For instance, our apartment is very different from a lot of the other apartments in our complex, even if they have a fairly similar, if not identical floor plan. And that was kind of how the casinos did it, because they all had the same games, the same slot machines, maybe with a little bit different theming depending. But the theming around it was so vastly different. It was crazy pants to me. We got to go see Paris, which probably was my favorite of the ones we saw that night, just because the theming was excellent and on point, both outside and inside. And we got dinner and drinks at one of the restaurants, which I loved this aesthetic so much. I wanted to take so many of the pieces home with me. The color palette was a bit moodier that I think is appropriate for our home as we like our jewel tones, but that's easily fixable. I really enjoyed it. It was really pretty. And the food was so good. Like the pastry was just so flaky and buttery and good. And the meat was succulent. And it was just delicious. And they were not shy on their wine pours. We also really enjoyed wandering through the convention areas of each casino because while Los Angeles has convention spaces, they're not really themed. And I loved this because it's just a bunch of empty rooms, but like getting to see how they did their bunch of empty rooms in different places. While I'm going to an anime con, I want a random Marie Antoinette on the wall. That sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. It was gorgeous in there. It was a lot of fun. We saw the Flamingo, which was one of the oldest casinos and was headed by Bugsy Cohen of LA Mafia fame. You've possibly seen me share his like secret safe as it is displayed in the Formosa in West Hollywood. And if not, I should. I know I've put it in probably TikTok-y things or like things on Instagram, but maybe I haven't actually shown you lovely people. I should fix that. We also got to see Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio. And I will say, the Bellagio had the cleanest air, hands down. The vibe was just not hitting the same. It didn't seem quite as fun. Like, we're not gambling people, but Angelique wanted to like do some blackjack, and it was just so... It didn't hit quite right. We had a much better experience the next night after we got done with Meow Wolf, but I'll get into that later. But I will say one of my favorite things that we got to enjoy when we were wandering the casinos, both the Friday night and the Saturday night, was getting to see all the decorations for Lunar New Year. It was phenomenal. I loved it. They were all gorgeous. And on Saturday night, we got to go see Excalibur and New York, New York, which was a lot of fun. The theming there was fantastic and just made me smile. We kind of wandered around the Aria a little bit, but I think my favorite part of all of that was probably, okay, this is 2 parts. One, there was a point at exactly 9 p.m. sharp on a Saturday where a man started playing Piano Man. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. It was amazing. We could hear it, and Angelique pointed out, like, it seems kind of early in the night to be playing that, because she's like, what time is it? I was like, it's 9 o'clock. And then that hit me, and I realized, and I was like, it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. And we had a good giggle about that, because normally that's usually like one of the things you usually play at the end of the night as like people are being kind of ushered to close their tabs. But also another great moment is in the Cosmopolitan, there is what is called the Chandelier Bar. And 1, it is beautiful, but 2, it reminds me of that scene in Rescuers Down Under where Bernard is attempting to propose to Bianca, and you've got, I think they're crickets or grasshoppers. They're like, pea soup. And it just brought me so much joy. And that was so much fun and so pretty. My heart. Plus, look at. Ugh. You got these fun they're chocolates, but they're like, they're little poker chips. Oh, I will say, because this was something I didn't know about because I'd never been to Vegas before, something called a resort fee. A resort fee is essentially a daily charge that for some reason you get that doesn't seem the most legal, to be honest, but it's essentially there to be like, help them take care of their amenities. None of the booking sites I booked on warned me about that, so just so you know that is an added charge you could be looking at if you are making a Vegas trip. And I did look into it. Apparently some Airbnbs are also adopting this. So just be careful. But enough about price gouging. Let's talk about Meow Wolf. To say I was excited about this is such an understatement because you know that I love theming, I love immersive storytelling, and I love puzzles. And Omega Mart was all of these. Angelique and I like to really add our own story on top of things to just like really fully make it immersive. We were secretly part of a supernatural investigation service bureau, and we were sent here to investigate all of the paranormal goings on that had happened and been reported. So we were going to pose as employees so that we didn't actually do anything that was like posing as an actual Meow Wolf employee. We're posing as Omega Mart employees because I had done some research beforehand, and that worked very well with the story that was laid out because you essentially get a hold of an access card. You purchase one of these for an extra $3, and I know some people are like, but I already paid for the ticket. Why do I? Trust me, this is worth it because the ticket price gets you in to see the exhibit itself. This little guy makes that price worth it. Not that it's not worth it beforehand because you get to see a lot of stuff, but for $3, you get so much more content. Because before, you're just kind of wandering around, getting to look at all these really cool things. You can purchase anything you want pretty much inside the Omega Mart. And then you can peek around at the factory, a little bit of an area called the Forked Earth, as well as the Dram Corp offices. But this guy is an employee access card, which, again, you purchase for like $3. And then you go around all the little consoles. And through that, you get to start unraveling the story. And what's really cool is there's a little QR code right here. And that QR code allows you that when you save videos onto your card, I can scan it with my phone. And it opens up my little access thing, and I can watch videos even though I'm no longer there on my Dram drive. This is actually really cool. It can so I can still be immersed in this long after I've left the Omega Mart, which is really cool. The actual products in Omega Mart are very eye-catching, and I definitely recommend you look through all of them very carefully because, again, you can purchase most of them. But what I also encourage is that if you're there, you pay attention very closely to all of the videos, some of which you can't hear the sound, but they've got subtitles going on, because it really starts to help you unravel some of the sinister stuff going on in Omega Mart. I think the first one we got to see was sort of laid out like a documentary about how Omega Mart came to be and how Walter Dram started this company and found Pleasant Valley. Was it? Plenty Valley, not Pleasant Valley. He found Plenty Valley. But then as the video plays on, you start to see things kind of glitch and be a little wonky and creepy. And you start to get this idea that like we're not actually seeing, what we're seeing is kind of an illusion. In fact, Walter Dram is really kind of stuck within his own mind potentially. It starts to throw out these things. You're like, oh, something creepy is definitely going on. You get to see like some very odd things, including what I'm pretty sure was at one point an Omega Mart customer that just started melting along with everything else in their cart. It was sectioned off by cones. The people who are working in Omega Mart are behaving a little oddly. Anytime there was a glitch in the system, they would just freeze. I loved that. I don't want to give too much spoilers, but essentially, as you investigate through this entire area, you start to realize that there's aliens involved, that the Dram Corp has been draining something called Source and putting it in all of its products, especially in Omega Mart. a parallel world called the Forked Earth where Source is from, an immaculate conception, and a murder that's not really a murder, but meh. You unravel the story by checking in at various boop stations. You solve puzzles, you gather information about Dramcorp and its employees and what they've been doing, as well as some of the residents in Forked Earth, and it's so awesome. We even found a secret bar.
How sweet is the Source? Is it very sugary? Really sweet.
Here's the thing. Angelique and I finished the main storyline, but also did a lot of exploring, and we probably spent a total of 8 hours inside that entire exhibit. And we could have spent more, but it was getting to the point where we were like, oh, we're really hungry, probably because we haven't eaten in like 8 hours. But the thing is, even after you finish that main quest line, there's side quests and stories and plot and lore to be found in papers, emails, everything. Like, even stuff you could take home. This is a fantastic little self-guided tour pamphlet from one of the characters, convinced about the aliens. And I'm not entirely sure if he specifically was correct. There was a lot of information going around, and some of his seemed like they might not necessarily be quite on the money, but it was fantastic. Gosh darn you, construction! I don't even know if you can actually hear it. You might be able to distantly in the background, but it's really grating against my brain. But I even took pictures of this alien book that had like all of these symbols in it because I found on someone else's computer the translation of those symbols. So I'm going to go through and translate all of these and see what they say. Without giving you too much spoilers, essentially, while you're there, you realize that a lot of not great things are going on at Dramcorp, and the current CEO has gone a little bit off the deep end. And so you end up helping these freedom fighters who live in the Forked Earth, a place that is suffering because of how Dramcorp is basically mining all of the source away and then dumping the runoff back into the town. It's not good. And even though we got to the end, we still had so many unanswered questions. And I know that you'd be like, why are you excited about that? I'm excited about that because we found out the reason why that is because the story isn't done. They're going to be adding an update. That's why the boop card is so important. A helpful and incredibly hilarious employee let us know that more story would be coming out in the next chapter and that having those unanswered questions was absolutely normal. He also let us know that there are connections between this Meow Wolf installation and others, including the one in Denver, Colorado, and one in Arizona. He also gave us little mini quests, which was an absolute blast. One thing is certain, I can't wait to further delve into this story. Would you like to know more about the Omega Mart story? On one hand, it's one of those things that I'm like, you really should go experience it yourself. But on the other hand, I know that that's not going to be possible for everybody. Now, I did say there's a lot you can purchase at Omega Mart, and purchase we did. One, to have some things just to commemorate the trip, but also I wanted to make a little thing for our adventure wall. This is probably my favorite thing we got at Omega Mart. It is a tomato snail. Boop. He's going to probably go in a little shadow box. He came in this cute little enclosure, but I don't want to keep him in it because you can't really see him, but like, it's cute. And the enclosure, of course, says Plenty Valley on it. All the mysteries of Omega Mart shall be mine. Long story short, it was just an absolute blast, and I cannot wait to go see the other Meow Wolf installations. I want to seek out more immersive experiences like that because it scratched an itch that I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. Enjoy this kind of entertainment. I want to help create this kind of entertainment. It just made me so joyous and happy. Now we're going to close things off with a check-in. Now, it's February, which means new month, new goals, but let's first get that Meow Wolf checked off. Boom! Thank you, January. So for my February goals, we have one home craft, which will probably be my Baba Yaga houses, which is a craft I'm making specifically for Ren Fair. I need to clear out my dresser because, gosh darn it, I have clothes there that I do not freaking wear. I really want to finish the book I'm currently working on, which is by Cecily Bowen. It's an amazing memoir about trap feminism, and I highly recommend it. And I want to start a new book as well because I want to try and catch up, which I don't think should be too hard considering I'm going to be traveling end of the month / beginning of next month, and I honestly listen to a lot of audiobooks when I am traveling. I also read more when I'm traveling. My new channel trailer is on hold because I am working on a much less robust computer. I love my laptop, but it just doesn't have the power I really need that I really want to make this a cool channel trailer, like going in and out of screens and kind of heavy on the editing, hopefully. We'll see. Maybe I'm biting off more than I can chew, but I'm excited about it. And of course, I want to see cool stuff. I'm keeping things pretty chill for February's general goals. Because I'm probably going to try and do some more filming for the week after, or we're just going to have a short little video next week, I'm not going to do a proper check-in. Because you know what? Screw it. It has been a rough week, and I don't know if I have anything proper to really check in with. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate having you here. Until next time, keep on the windy side of care, and of course, stay curious.